Hello, welcome back to Watching Movies with April and Kenny. I am your Kenny.
I'm April.
And it's been a minute since we talked about a movie. It's been a minute since we watched a movie, too.
Correct.
Last time, we watched 2001, A Space Odyssey, a classic.
A real journey.
And funnily enough, the day before recording this, I watched a bit more of 2001, accidentally because I was over at our parents' watching Turner Classic Movies. And what do you know? It's 2001 A Space Odyssey. And I decided to tune in for a little bit of it.
Kenny's a glutton for punishment.
It's really good. It's funny because I also, on that same channel over the past week, they're obviously on some sort of sci-fi kick, because I also watched Planet of the Apes, part of it, which I know is a classic. This must be how you felt watching 2001. I know Planet of the Apes is a classic, but I watched Planet of the Apes and I was like, I don't know, man.
Not good.
And then I watched an even weirder movie called, I want to say, Logan's Run.
Never heard of it.
Something like that. It stars Basil from Austin Powers.
Okay.
And it's really bad.
Okay.
Really bad.
Sounds like a good channel.
So anyway.
That's what you get out of Dish TV.
So, the rights were taken away from me to pick the movie, and so it was April's pick this time. And what have you selected for us?
I chose another classic.
To follow up Goblet of Fire.
A heralded movie, you know. Everybody loves this movie. Con Air.
Probably a movie that more people in the audience have seen. Although I guess I'm curious, because one of the weird things about this movie, it's a movie I've always been aware of. Mm-hmm. Came out when I was a young, sprightly lad. Mm-hmm. And by all accounts, I should have watched it at some point. There's no reason I wouldn't have, but I just didn't.
I also didn't. I don't honestly care for action movies very much. And I hadn't watched this movie until like 3 years ago, when I had a Nick Cage marathon. All his best stuff. And so I watched this one and just loved it. So I had to have you watch it.
Okay, so I guess a preamble question here for this. Do you really love it, or do you ironically love it? Or for you, is there a distinction even between those?
I don't think there's a distinction.
Like, you love the Fast and Furious movies, just straight up. And part of the fun is that they're so bad.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you want to know anything about me, I love watching bad movies. It's very much my shit.
That's what makes this an interesting show, because you love watching bad movies, and I notoriously do not like watching bad movies. I don't even like watching okay movies, let alone bad movies. Yeah. Would you call this a bad movie?
Yes, I would.
Okay, great. Okay, good. We're on the same page anyway. All right, so that's a good preamble here. So let's get into our discussion.
Let's do it.
Con Air, 1997.
Uh-huh.
Director, Simon West.
Okay.
A lot of great movies to this guy's name. He also directed Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
Classic.
And The Expendables 2.
Okay.
Not even The Expendables. The Expendables 2.
The better one, I think.
Yeah, definitely a superior sequel. Like one of the better sequels in history, I would say. Haven't watched either of any of the I don't know how many there are.
No, there could be 12. I have no idea.
And I don't plan on doing
That's
that.
That's going to be our next movie!
Unless you drag me to do it. Simon West, not a terrific director by any accounts here. All-star cast, I would say.
Truly.
For this movie.
There's some
a real ensemble.
heavy hitters here.
There are, and the thing is like, the cast is more interesting now than it probably was at the time.
Yeah.
Because there are some of the names which... There are actors who were doing stuff at the time, but they didn't really make a big name for themselves until later.
Yeah.
So, for example, you've got Danny Trejo, you've got Dave Chappelle, and in 1997, they weren't the household names that they are today. But starring, of course, Nicolas Cage, the one, the only.
Of course.
It's got John Cusack, John Malkovich, Steve Buscemi, Ving Rhames, Colm Meaney from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle, as I said, Danny Trejo, and others. That's not even the full interesting cast. No. But those are like, when you see the names popping up, I did, I was like, what is this movie?
In the opening credits, you were like, that person, that person, that person.
Everybody, all your favorite stars. You got Nicolas Cage, was an interesting man. Did you take any notes about Nick Cage? You're the Nick Cage expert in the room.
I love Nick Cage because he has such range in the fact that he can actually be a very good actor, and then he's also incredibly bad in some of his movies. And I don't know where he makes the distinction, if he's deciding to be bad or if he's deciding to really put it on, but he's all over the place.
It's true, and I wanted to say he reminds me a bit of Adam Sandler, who is in lots of trash and lots of bad stuff. Lots of stuff where it's obvious he's just making a paycheck.
Yeah.
And then he's in stuff where it's like, wow, he's obviously just good.
Yeah.
But with Adam Sandler, it's almost like he always delivers exactly the same performance, and it just depends. He just needs to be put in the right movie.
Yeah.
That's taking advantage of his insanity. But then Nick Cage, you can put him in a movie like, this will show something about my taste, I guess. You put him in a movie like National Treasure, he's not being too wacky in that movie. He plays it pretty straight.
Yeah.
And he does a good job in it. So yeah, I don't know what happens to him where sometimes he's like dials the crazy to 11, sometimes the performance is solid, sometimes it's absolutely trash.
Yeah.
Don't know.
I don't know either.
He was in a movie, Pig, recently.
I've heard great things.
I have too. Haven't watched it, but...
We watched Mandy over like Halloween time.
What'd you think of that?
He was really good in that. That was a really cool movie. I really liked that. And he was also in Color Out of Space, which is a sci-fi. I forget
you were telling me about that.
Is that a Lovecraft? I don't remember.
Cosmic horror stuff?
Yes. And he was good in that as well. And then he's also in things like The Wicker Man. Really bad.
Famously bad.
Awful.
Famously bad.
Con Air. Bad.
Well, he's also in things nowadays that are like red box only movies where it's like 90% of the budget goes to him and it's awful.
Oh, we watched I think it was called Willy's Wonderland or something like that.
The Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes, exactly. And he, in that movie, does not say a single word. He does not have a word in that movie.
Was that part of the gimmick, or was that him saying, I don't want to act?
I remember looking it up, and I think it was his choice to not have any part, like any script in that.
No
but
dialogue.
There were parts where he was like, he would kill one of the animatronics, and then he would take a break and go to like this pinball machine, and there would be music playing in the background, and he was dancing like wild. It was so strange. One of the worst movies I've ever seen.
So even that is weird to me, because it's not like it's not like a lazy performance where he's like, I don't give a shit. I'm just here for the check.
Right. He was putting his all on that, but it was a weird choice.
So yeah, Nick Cage is extremely swingy and is, very famous these days for equal measures, quality performance, and strange choices.
I think I'm Nick Cage's biggest fan.
I think you might be. I also think this movie is like weirdly like a nice middle movie as far as like, here's a good question for you in Con Air. Is this a serious performance from Nick Cage?
I think so.
I don't know.
It's hard. He was trying his best.
I think of that image of him, which we'll get to early on in the movie, where he is escorted out of the police van towards the Con Air plane. Uh-huh. His smile. It's like
with the wind blowing through his hair.
That can't be serious, can it?
I think it was.
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Another very good Nick Cage movie, Face Off. I can't not mention Face Off right now. The wildest concept for a movie you ever did see. Yeah,
I mean, it's funny because I imagine they're very different movies. I haven't seen Face Off either. But in my mind, these are like
go hand
twin,
in hand.
brother and sister movies. Like, there's a kinship there between them.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, so we'll go through the actors still before we get into the plot. Mm-hmm. John Cusack is in here.
Yes.
My first note is, what are you doing here, John? What are you doing in this movie?
Uh-huh.
But I think the weird thing, actually, is that a lot of the actors in here, I think of in my head as like, oh, you're like a serious actor. I think of John Cusack, oh, you're a serious actor. I think of John Malkovich, I'll go to him as well, you're a serious actor.
Yeah.
But looking at their filmographies, they're all kind of in the same boat as Nick Cage, where they are equal parts in goofy schlock
all over the place.
And real movies.
What else has John Cusack been in?
Serendipity, I know, is a big one for him.
Okay.
He was in 2012.
Oh, God.
The what's his name? Roland Emmerich disaster.
Apocalypse movie.
He was in 1408, the Stephen King horror movie, which actually was an okay movie. He's not, like, in my head, he was a serious kind of actor, but he hasn't really been
Was he in a rom-com at some point?
That was Serendipity.
Oh, anything else?
I think so.
I don't remember.
Let me look it up.
I should have. 16 Candles.
There you go.
That's what I was thinking of.
Which, that is a serious movie. It's a classic.
Yeah, great movie.
So that's why it's, like, strange to see him here. And so, yeah, I wrote, what are you doing here, John? Both the character and the actor. Because his character is... This goes for a lot of the characters in this movie. Baffling to me.
Yeah, make some weird choices.
Don't understand. There's John Malkovich, who is the main antagonist.
Yeah.
I guess.
Villain, sort of.
I said, what are you doing here, John? Both the character and the actor.
Again.
Yeah, same thing. And then, the smattering of lots of other people who we'll get to as we get into the movie itself. Do you have anybody that you wanted to call out here in the cast?
I don't think so. One of the things that I saw was that Dave Chappelle improvised a lot of his lines.
That's shocking.
Yeah, really weird.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we're ready for taglines before we get into the plot.
Sure.
So give me your tagline first.
My tagline was, Con Air. They're cons, and they're in the air.
Which is almost a line of dialogue in the movie.
That's the whole movie.
It was very funny when we watched this, which you all can check out later when our commentary track comes out.
Uh-huh.
But I called very early on. I was like, they're gonna say these cons are in the air or something where it's like, and they literally twice in the movie say Con Air.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of movie. That's what you're buckling up for. My tagline is, what are you doing here, John? Both the character and the actor. I just decided since I already did it twice, just go ahead and...
It applies.
Comedy comes in threes, so I just kept that as my tagline. Okay, so...
Do you want to hear the actual tagline?
Yes,
for this
please.
movie?
I always forget these.
Okay, so so there are a bunch of them.
How many?
7.
7?
7 taglines.
For what? Okay.
Well, some of them are one of them is, Buckle Up June 6.
Okay.
Welcome to Con Air.
Okay.
Get Ready to Fly. A Jerry Bruckheimer production. And my favorite one, They Were Deadly on the Ground. Now They Have Wings. What? What?
You know, some of them, as generic as they are, I like Buckle Up.
Buckle Up June 6th.
Is better than They Were Deadly on the Ground. Now They Have Wings.
They have wings.
That makes me think it's going to be like a James Patterson Maximum Ride book.
Sprout wings out of their backs.
Wow. Those are trash. We were discussing before we started recording, all movies have bad taglines, we're discovering. Because it feels like maybe it's these older movies just have bad taglines. So I was curious and I looked up some, decent modern-ish movies. And the tagline for The Dark Knight was, before the dawn, the night is darkest. And
Night spelled with a K?
Yes, and there was another one that was like, imagine a world without rules. Awful. And then the 2001 Dune, which is a fantastic movie, a movie I actually really like, shocker, was Beyond Fear, There is Destiny. Or something like that. And it's just so...
Which to me is like a nothing
It's like
sentence.
sand.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Which I also said, I don't notice movie posters or taglines at all.
I don't know where they're used.
I don't know that it
or who they're marketing to.
Outside of, sometimes they're put up outside of movie theaters. Like,
yes.
But who is standing at those posters and like reading the taglines?
Somebody is.
I guess. I don't know.
Somebody's getting paid to make these.
They should pay us to make these.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay, so let's get into the plot. I have found, in the movies that we've looked at, I try to briefly describe the plot, like just in a sentence or two, elevator pitch. And I find it really difficult, even with a simple movie, to like quickly encapsulate it. Do you want to hear what I've got this time?
Yeah.
Okay. Nick Cage His character's name is Cameron Poe, but who cares? He's Nick Cage. Nick Cage is wrongfully imprisoned and is about to get out to return to his family. He's being transferred on a plane with a bunch of dangerous prisoners who, of course, take over the plane.
Sure.
Nick Cage has to survive and somehow get home to his wife and baby.
Yeah.
That's the plot.
Yeah.
And you were saying Face Off had absolutely insane plot
Very
concept.
wild.
Let me make a weird analogy here. Because I was thinking about this movie. I'm going to favorably compare Con Air to the Book of Boba Fett.
Okay.
Go on this ride with me for a second. Because I have this idea that any story can be good. If you're talented, if you've got a good team, you can take any concept and make it amazing.
Sure.
But there are some premises that lend themselves better to a good story. And there are some premises where you're in a hole already. Mm-hmm. The Book of Boba Fett, you're in a hole. Literally. He fell down into the Sarlacc pit. He fucking died.
He's there forever.
In Return of the Jedi. So now you have to jump through plot hoops just to get to the beginning of your story. Mm-hmm. It's not a good place to begin. Could be told well by somebody who's talented, but you're already at a deficit. Con Air, I think it's a strong concept. I think a plane transferring prisoners, and the prisoners take over the plane, and there's one honest Con who has to try to survive and make his way out, is actually pretty compelling.
Yeah.
And there's lots of cool things that you could do with it. So I give a check mark to the movie right off the bat for having a strong concept. Do you agree?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good.
Have you watched any of Book of Boba Fett?
No.
Oh.
I've only seen clips. I posted about this on Twitter. I saw a thumbnail from the last episode of Boba Fett riding a Rancor fighting another famous bounty hunter called Cad Bane, and I was like, I'm glad I didn't even fuck around with this show.
My thing is, Boba Fett's a nobody. Who gives a fuck about Boba Fett?
It's multiple things. Who cares about Boba Fett? And two, oh man, I want to see a cool story about this bounty hunter in this badass armor who's like stoic and cold-blooded and learns how to like have a heart. Oh shit.
It's already been done and done well.
And it's also in this series. He shows, it's like, why are we doing this?
I have no interest in watching it, but Vince wanted to watch it, so we started watching it. And
well, Vince is a Star Wars show.
Yes. The very first episode, and I tweeted about this, Boba Fett looks terrible. He's being dragged through the desert. He's like red and wrinkled. He looks like a ball sack. He's covered in dirt. He's being beat to shit. He has the whitest, largest veneers in his mouth that I have ever seen. And it's the first thing I said. I was like, look at his teeth. And Vince was like, oh yeah, his teeth. And I Googled it. I typed in Boba Fett, and one of the things that popped up was Boba Fett teeth. And multiple Reddit threads had been created like, what the fuck is going on with his teeth? And we've watched several episodes now, and I'm just staring at his teeth. Like, I'm glad he has nice veneers, but like,
sure,
you could have made him a little dingy for the show, right?
Sure. Also, you should have got a different actor. Mm-hmm. Like, no shade on the guy. Good for you for getting your work, my friend. But yeah, like he's old and fat and
not very good at acting, actually.
No, he's not. So yeah, it was a strange choice, especially like what made original Boba Fett cool is he's this stoic, hard, badass, calculating bounty hunter. That's what we find compelling, which is what makes the Mandalorian compelling when you meet him, is because that's who he is. He's the man with no name. And so, I don't know. This is not the Boba Fett episode.
No, I just had to ask you about it because...
No, that's fine. It's fine to go on the tangent. My point is that Boba Fett is not a good concept to start off with.
Right.
Con Air, actually a good concept.
Has potential.
If you pitch it to me, that actually sounds cool. It actually is not that different of a premise from another movie from the same era that I do like, although I have to say with a caveat, because I haven't watched it in a long time, and I might find that I don't feel the same way about it. Air Force One is a movie I watched a lot as a young man.
Yes.
And I think it's pretty good. And it basically has the same concept. Plane taken over by criminals. Yeah. One good man has to make a stand basically by himself to get back on the ground and survive. Very similar. And you can do all kinds of fun stuff with it. Mm-hmm. So it's a good concept.
Could be done well.
Could be done well. Is it done well? Okay, so that's the basic plot. The movie begins. Tell me about how the movie begins.
Well, half of your basic plot happens in the first 7 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
The exposition in the beginning is just like bang, 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 bang.
It's a lot.
Full backstory. Stuff you don't necessarily really need to know.
Yes, that's the big thing to note about the beginning here.
Yes.
Because we learn the backstory. Nick Cage is a military man.
Yeah, you see that he's like a ranger. He's in the military.
Right. And he's just getting back from service.
Comes home.
In uniform.
Finds his lady at the bar.
At the bar in some southern town.
Yeah.
The local yokels are like giving him trouble and hitting on his boo. And they're being awful. And he's like, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah, let's leave.
They go to the car next to the power plant or wherever they are.
In the rain.
And the local yokels along, like, there's like 4 or 5 of them. And they have weapons?
Yeah, like a knife or something.
They've got deadly weapons.
Yeah.
And they bring them out and they are actively trying to kill Nick Cage.
Uh-huh.
And he defends himself.
Self-defense.
Hits one of them, like strikes him in the nose or something, and accidentally kills him.
Uh-huh.
And then we cut to...
Our favorite line from the whole movie.
I don't even remember.
Oh, when he's being, like, charged with this, and the guy is like,
right.
What does he say?
Oh my god, the judge says something, doesn't he?
Yeah, the judge is like, you are a deadly weapon, and the laws, like, don't apply to you, or something, like, apply differently to you, or
the
something
rules,
like that.
the laws, our laws don't apply to you, or something like that. And it's like, what?
Excuse me?
What? Yeah, so that's a big important note. In what world would he be in prison?
Go to prison.
Military
for 8
man,
years or whatever
clearly
it is.
in the right here, like, has witnesses,
Right.
like, it's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. But, okay, he's wrongfully imprisoned.
Yes.
And then then you think, okay, we've got the backstory. No.
Nope.
You're like halfway through the setup. Now you get to watch Nick Cage in prison for 5 minutes.
A montage of him learning a different language, or like getting a degree or something, or like reading different books,
Working out.
shit like that.
Improving himself.
Sure.
His hair growing long.
Beautiful, luscious locks.
The most insane widow's peak you've ever seen.
Writing letters.
Writing letters, because what we learn, his wife, did he get married? He was already married before the movie started.
And she was pregnant.
And she was pregnant.
Yes.
So he's in jail for 10 years? 7 years?
Something like that.
So he's got a young daughter now. Casey. As you will hear over and over in the movie, his daughter Casey. This is one of the few things I knew about the movie. I knew about Casey, and I knew about a bunny.
Okay.
So he's got to get home to his daughter.
Yep.
Daughter's writing him, he's writing the daughter.
By the way, in this movie, Nick Cage...
Yeah, that's the other thing.
...has a southern accent.
He has an accent, I would say.
It is one of the worst accents I've ever heard in my life.
It makes you wonder why they bothered with it.
One of my fun facts was that he traveled to Alabama to learn a southern accent.
How long?
It did not specify. 15 minutes? I don't know.
Here's another hot recommendation. Don't watch Book of Boba Fett. Do watch Eric Singer's YouTube, where he talks about dialect and accents in acting in Hollywood. And one of his biggest takeaways, he ends like every video the same way, because he's making part of his living in YouTube is like critiquing people's bad accents, and he's like, keep in mind, when somebody's doing a bad job with an accent in a movie, it's never just their fault.
Yeah, it's not their fault.
It's inadequate time to prep, inadequate coaching.
Resources.
Yeah, so... It is fun to make fun of Nick Cage's bad accent. My biggest critique with the accent is, why do it at all? Why does he need to be Southern?
Yeah.
It plays absolutely no role in the movie. Doesn't matter. You could have had him just be from the Midwest and had a generic accent. Or he could have been living in New York and just had his... Or be in L.A.
Have a New York accent.
He could have
Hey, I'm a con here.
I'm con in there. No, you don't need to do anything.
But if he didn't have a southern accent, we wouldn't get the famous "My daughter Casey." If anything sticks with you from this movie, it's "My daughter Casey."
Yeah, that should be the tagline.
Yeah.
So, here's a good question. Put yourself in movie maker frame of mind.
Uh-huh.
Why did they give him the Southern accent?
Maybe he wanted to do it. I don't know.
Just for fun? But then they set all that stuff in the South. Like, they very purposefully put his backstory in the South.
Yeah.
All these, like, rednecks who, like, give him trouble, and his wife has an actual Southern accent, as far as I can tell.
I don't remember.
So, like, is it to make him feel like sort of a down-home country boy?
Maybe, yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's strange.
It is.
It's
not good.
One of many strange choices.
Bad choice.
That happens over the course. The big point that I want to make with this opening montage, which is like 15 minutes of the beginning of the movie, you need
it's not needed.
None of it. You could just start
with him in prison.
And you could let us know quickly, he's in here, not for good reasons. Or he is, and he's learned his lesson.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't matter either way.
He could have been in prison for, like, he actually got into a bar fight, let's say, and actually really hurt somebody. And now he's in prison, and he's learning, like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Why he's in there, other than he's actually a good dude, and he needs to get home to his family.
I guess, I don't know, did they want his military background put in there so that it would make sense for him to be, like, you know,
a badass,
be on the plane and be a good person, and
to be a deadly weapon that the rules
exactly.
don't apply to. I guess so, because that is a big thing, is that he's put on this plane to be transferred. He's getting away, and all of the deadliest and worst offenders are going on this plane onto the Con Air, because it's just a high maximum security transfer.
Yeah.
Why you would put them all on the same plane doesn't really make sense, but I forgive that. Like, that's not really a big deal to me. It's part of the fun concept. So yeah, I guess they're establishing he's a real badass.
Because at one point, John Cusack's character is like, there's one guy on the plane who yada yada yada.
At several points.
Yeah.
At several points.
Maybe he'll help us. He's our guy.
Well, that's the thing. They could have given us that backstory later through John Cusack.
True.
You could have.
True. There's a million ways you could have done it.
Yeah, you could have had it so that we're kind of questioning, is Nick Cage actually a good guy? Mm-hmm. We don't know. Like, you could do a whole Andy Dufresne thing where it's like, did he kill this guy?
Maybe,
is he really?
Not.
We don't know. And then later we learn from John Cusack, actually he's a very good guy.
True.
Instead we do nothing with John Cusack. So before we get to John Cusack, I think I have a lot of comments on some of the side characters. That's where most of my comments lie. But before we get there, a little more plot. Finally we get through all the intro shit. Doesn't matter. And then I remember we were watching it. I was getting kind of excited when we were getting to the plane. Because the ridiculous shot with Nick Cage, where he gets out and
steps out and the wind blows through his hair.
I know I've seen gifs of that.
Got a serene smile on his face.
It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And then we have the side characters, the police, John Cusack, who's a marshal, I believe.
Yeah.
Colm, Meaney, and other guy who are DEA agents, and they're trying to make some kind of operation happen on the plane.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember what it is.
I don't remember either, to be honest.
They're trying to do some police stuff with a plant that they're putting on the plane.
Yeah.
But they're doing the thing where they're doing their rundown of all the shady characters, the rogues gallery. This is my
favorite part.
This is the part where it's like
making a team.
Yes.
I love that.
Totally. It's like, I can see the good version of this movie, where they're going through the rogues gallery of all these different people. And so I just want to read through the names here.
This is like a trope that I love. Like, when watching Armageddon, I only want to watch through, like, them putting their team together. I don't know,
Another
it's so
Steve
fun.
Buscemi.
Yeah.
So we've got Joe Pinball Parker.
Don't remember that one.
That is Dave Chappelle, I think.
Okay.
William Billy Bedlam Bamford.
Billy Bedlam.
John Johnny 23 Baca.
That's Trejo?
Yes.
Okay.
Nathan Diamond Dog Jones. It's Ving Rhames.
Okay.
Earl Swamp Thing Williams. He shows up later. He's the pilot.
Oh,
guy.
okay.
Cyrus the Virus Grissom.
Yes,
our
main...
the real star of the show, in my opinion. He's the most fun part of it.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
And Steve Buscemi, who also shows up later.
Uh-huh.
I didn't even write his actual character name.
I don't remember his character's name.
Garland Green, I think.
Okay.
He's one of my other, like, I got a lot to say about Steve Buscemi in this movie. But yeah, you got all these ridiculous nicknames, and like they go through, like, this guy and his background, and Cyrus is like a mastermind criminal, and like Johnny 23 is like a horrible rapist, which is not a good backstory, but you got all these, and Nathan Diamond Dog Jones is they don't use the word, but he's a Black Panther, basically, like a real extremist. Like, so it's a cool, like, you feel the structure.
Something's getting started.
You're getting set up, like, all these people with their specialties, they're going to come in handy here. And you're excited for, like, oh, they're going to take over the plane. How are they going to do it? And they just do it in the most, like, generic way.
They get right into it,
They do, yeah.
Just right away.
Another prediction I made as we were watching the movie was that the DEA plant agent was going to die.
Yep.
I saw that happening in, like, the second act of the movie. They kill him in, like, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
As soon as he gets on.
He snuck a gun onto the plane, and then that was part of the whole thing, too.
Which he was told not to do.
Yes. John Cusack was like, you cannot take a fucking weapon on the plane, and the other two guys were like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
and
whatever.
Snuck one into, like, his sock or something.
And then he gets murdered immediately.
Just right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they take over the plane immediately.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
Also, the security, like, getting these people on the plane or whatever, obviously did a really bad job, because everybody has, like, a safety pin or, like, something, like, they all have something hidden on them.
Or, like, a bottle filled with gasoline, which they set another inmate on fire with. I don't remember how that goes.
I don't remember
That's
either.
what starts everything off.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of weird. But yeah, they quickly take over the plane very easily.
Right away.
And now you've got your basic setup. They're taking over the plane. They want to leave the country, escape.
Yeah, one of the things I wrote down was like, what is the plan exactly? What are they trying to accomplish?
So on Wikipedia, in the plot summary, they're trying to go to a country that doesn't have extradition, so they can't be extradited back to the U.S.
Okay.
That's never stated, I don't think. But I get the idea.
Yeah.
They're trying to escape. Got it.
Yeah.
Good enough. The one plot element that I thought was, like, I don't want to say clever, but verging on clever, is that after they take over the plane, they're supposed to have another stop.
Yes.
They're scheduled on the flight to have another stop where they're going to pick up some other prisoners on their way to transfer people. And they are like, we have to act like everything's cool.
Yeah.
And
otherwise they'll know that something's up.
That's like some classic heist shit, where the cons have to act like innocents and guards and stuff and make it happen. It's like the one interesting heisty kind of thing that happens in the plot, I think. Unless I'm forgetting something.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so, and then now we can get, well, I guess I should pause here. Is there anything up until this point that you want to discuss?
Them on their stop? Is that what you're talking about?
So all the plot so far, they took off the rogues gallery, here's everybody, they take over the plane, they land, and they're picking up other prisoners and trying to make things look natural.
So when the prisoners take over the plane, they take one of the guards and, like, tie him up or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's one who they make get off the plane to act like a prisoner.
Right.
Right. And so Nick Cage is trying to figure out how to alert that something is wrong.
Right.
So he writes on his shirt or something like that.
That's right. And then that person eventually gets thrown off a plane.
No. Who gets thrown off the plane?
They have something written on their shirt.
Yeah. What did he do to the person that they took off the
How many
plane?
times have you seen this?
Oh, he put a wire on him. The one guy had a wire.
Okay.
And he put the tape on him. But I don't think that worked out. Who did he write on? Was that Dave Chappelle's character?
Maybe. But he winds up back on the plane.
No! Who did he kill in the...
Oh, right.
Was that Billy Bedlam?
Maybe.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. This whole movie is a blur.
It truly is.
The only other thing I was going to mention is the one random side plot of the guy with diabetes who needs his insulin.
This is Nick Cage's cellmate
His friend.
in prison, his friend.
Which I don't know why he's on this plane ride either.
Don't know.
Okay.
Don't really know. And they really set that up super hard, the cellmate with diabetes. Mm-hmm. Does that pay off?
I don't think so.
He gets medicine eventually.
Yeah, he gets his insulin eventually.
But
doesn't he still die? Or does he not?
I don't think he does.
Okay.
But you would think, like, my writing mind, my hack writing mind is like, Nick Cage is going to have to decide at some point.
There needs to be a reason for this.
It needs to be like, he has to decide, I have a chance, I could go be with my family now, but I have to be here to save my friend. And he makes the self-sacrificing choice to save his friend.
He does do that, right?
I don't know.
Or is it just to get these cons to justice? Because he was going to get off the plane with the other prisoners, remember?
Yes.
And then he swapped out.
And then he comes back?
Yeah.
Is it for his friend?
I don't remember if it's for his friend or if to take care of the situation. Probably for his friend. Okay, so I guess that's where that comes in.
Maybe it pays off.
I don't know.
You can tell it like is like really like resonating, like powerful emotional stakes. Because it is a blur. It is a blur. Now here's the question. Now I want to get into the side characters. So we have our side characters of John Cusack, U.S. Marshal, Colm Meaney, the DEA agent, and his other friend. His other friend doesn't matter. Colm Meaney, you know the kind of character he is. He's the law officer who's just a dickhead for no reason. You've seen this stock character a million times.
Yeah.
He's here to stop the law enforcement guy who knows what he's talking about, who is John Cusack. So, my question to you, what does John Cusack do in this movie?
He follows them around?
The plane?
I don't remember what his original reason for being involved was.
I think he's basically just trying to oversee the whole operation and make sure it goes over okay.
Okay.
Because he's a marshal, so he's in charge of fugitives and convicts and stuff.
So he's trying to fix his situation in this whole movie.
And the DEA agents were trying to pull off some sting operation, I guess.
Get some information or something.
Yeah, something like that. But what does John Cusack do?
He literally tries to find them the whole time.
Yeah, he does. There is a scene where, you and I both commented on this when we were watching the movie. He brings in Nick Cage's wife for an interview. Yeah. And the whole time we were watching it, we're like, why is he talking to her? Yeah. What can she tell him? What is the purpose? Can't tell him
where the plane is.
Right. Because the whole time he's like, this man, he is the person we need to go to. He's going to be our eyes in the sky. He's going to be our guy up there. And it's like, from her perspective, it's like, okay, sure. I don't have a phone to call him. What do I do about that?
What do you want from me?
And they never do anything with it. It's like, okay, I'm going to put you in contact with the plane, and you need to convince him to do X, Y. Like, doesn't happen. No. Completely meaningless.
She doesn't need to be there at all.
No. So that was a big thing when I was like sitting down taking my notes. I legitimately, like you said, it's a blur. I was trying to remember from watching it what different characters did during the movie. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them fall into the John Cusack hole of like...
I don't know.
Nothing, really. I mean, honestly. Yeah. They don't get up to too much.
Well, John Cusack eventually comes and joins them.
Yes.
In the airstrip junkyard place.
Yes.
So.
That's true. For what purpose?
I don't know. To stop them? I don't know.
Or to help. Because he meets up. It's kind of the same scene again. So yeah. Eventually they have to make an emergency refuel landing in this like
junk. Well, they're there to get on a different plane.
Right. They're going to go to a different plane. It's like swapping like stolen vehicles, basically. And so they're landing there to try to make this happen. And John Cusack is going rogue. He's going to go there by himself. He
took a Porsche.
Right. And he has a very similar scene with Nick Cage that he had with his wife where he meets him and he's like, you're going to be my guy in the air. And we're like, he already was doing that.
You're here. You're both here.
Right. Like, what is...
to figure it out.
Right. We should mention, too, that this movie features, speaking of John Cusack... horrible 90s suits that are incredibly baggy.
Some nice wide suits.
Very wide pants, very wide jackets. So you can enjoy that if you watch this movie. But yeah, John Cusack just kind of runs around and never has a plan. That's a big part of this movie in general. There is no real plan.
There's never a plan.
One guy has a plan. So speaking of this airstrip, one of the cons in the air is actually going to betray everybody else.
Yeah, this part was kind of muddy, too.
It pops up out of nowhere.
It was kind of strange.
He's like...
This whole time they're like,
we're all in it together.
John Malkovich is like...
The mastermind.
We're heading to this airstrip. We're going to stop. We're all going to get on this other plane, and it'll take us to wherever. And then they land, and this other guy goes and meets a couple other guys.
Like a crew who's working on a private plane.
Small plane.
Yeah.
And then... somehow they all figure out that they're being, like, two-timed, basically.
And they kill the guy.
That whole part is just, like, a big mess.
And it's like a plot dead end.
And then, like, the military shows up or something.
The police do.
Yeah.
And there's a shootout.
Yeah. And they manage to get the broken plane back up into the sky.
Right. Somehow.
Do you want to backtrack and talk about Steve Buscemi's character?
Yeah, we need to, because he comes into play here. So when they make their first stop, where they're, like I said, the one kind of clever thing where they're having to pretend like they're the guards,
yeah,
they pick up a new criminal.
The worst criminal.
The worst of them all. Garland Green.
We don't hear anything really about what he's done.
No, it's all kind of alluded to.
Yeah.
But he's very clearly made to look like Hannibal Lecter.
Mm-hmm.
They cart him in. He's got the face mask.
Mm-hmm.
There's a line, he makes the Manson family look like the Partridge family.
Uh-huh.
So he's an awful, awful serial killer. Which, to be fair, I think Steve Buscemi looks like he could
be a serial killer.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he has a line somewhere in there that's like, I wore somebody's face as a hat or something like that. Like driving across state. I don't remember. But something along those lines.
Yeah. So, okay. Super edgelord serial killer. Like, he's another stock character. He's the scary serial killer. Mm-hmm. Do you get it? Other than the scene we're about to talk about and what happens there, what is the role of this character in the movie?
He kind of has like some comedic lines in there.
He does, yeah. He has a line about who's the crazy person, because we're like flying through the air listening to a song that a band listened to as they crashed. Uh-huh. Something like that.
He's just like a very chill guy while they're like on their way.
There are a couple characters like that, because there's also John Malkovich, Cyrus the Virus, who in my opinion is also a pretty chill dude overall.
Yeah.
We're told he's a criminal mastermind. He just wants to escape. And I think he's very reasonable in pretty much everything he does while he's in charge of Con Air.
Yeah.
He doesn't go out of his way to murder people.
Yeah.
If you step out of line or cross him, he'll be like, look, I can't put up with that.
Yeah.
But he's not like some of the other people.
Danny Trejo's character just trying to sexually assault somebody the entire time.
Just trying to rape somebody the whole time. And then there's the guy Nick Cage fights below deck who's just trying to murder him for no reason.
Yeah.
There are psychopaths on the plane, and Cyrus is just like, I just want to escape.
Keep it together.
And
Let's get out of here.
We'll all get out of here together.
Yeah.
So the idea that, and where the movie ultimately goes, which we'll get to later, presents him as if he is a horrible villain antagonist, which the movie just doesn't establish, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything that bad.
Not like he's sociopathic the whole time.
No, absolutely not. And it's not like, he should have been, if they wanted to do that, he should have been throwing guards off the plane or something. And like when people wouldn't cooperate with him, like torturing them or something. If you wanted to go that route and make him like a true villain. But he just is a very reasonable guy. Which I don't mind them characterizing that way.
Right.
He was the most interesting
Yeah.
character in the movie to me.
Yeah.
He was the most fun. But then the way they treat him later doesn't match up with that characterization.
Yeah.
And Steve Buscemi is the same way, where he's like, he's presented backstory-wise as this psychopathic, mass-murdering Hannibal Lecter kind of character, and he's just a chill dude.
And then they land at this airstrip.
Yes.
And he gets out of the plane.
Yes.
And goes exploring. And ends up at like a trailer park nearby or something.
Which may or may not be in his dreams.
And there's a little girl.
Who may or may not be in his dreams.
Sitting in an empty pool, like having a tea party or something. And he comes in and sits with her.
Has a tea party.
Have a conversation. And then he's like staring with dead eyes the whole time. And you're like, oh God.
He's going to kill her.
What's going to happen? He's going to do something. And then nothing happens.
Yeah, she just talks to him.
Yeah.
And they sing a song together.
Oh yeah. What is it?
He's got the whole world.
The whole world in his hand. Yeah, they sing together.
And then he winds up back on the plane.
Back on the plane.
And then
at the end.
at the end, nothing.
Yeah.
He just lands and escapes and seems like he's going to go live a peaceful life now.
He's been rehabilitated.
I guess. So, an interesting thing in the little bit of research that I did after we watched the movie, there's a Con Air wiki. There's a Con Air fandom wiki. And I was looking up this character because I was like, what do people think of this? Because I'm baffled by this character. He doesn't do anything. He does not affect the plot that I described earlier. Nick Cage is on this plane. He's got to survive and get back to his family. Steve Buscemi does not do anything.
He's not on either side of the conflict.
He doesn't do anything. There. He doesn't do anything to influence anybody.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do people think of this? And the comments that I read, there are people commenting on the character.
I can't wait to hear.
Okay, you ready? This is from a fandom user.
Sure.
The little girl did not heal him. Garland Green simply connected with the girl in a childlike manner, almost as if he knew the girl. Green never got saved by anything or anyone. Thus, the girl was only a vision of what he could be. Garland Green did not sing the song as referring it to God. He sang it referring to himself. Garland is also the only jailbird who was not afraid of Cyrus the Virus Grissom, which I believe is a sign that Green wasn't afraid of anyone, nor anything. And he looked at the child like he saw something that frightened him. Maybe the girl could have been a vision or a sign of change? No. Garland Green in the end of the movie is seen playing craps and looking way better. But he also says he's feeling lucky, which I believe the context behind that is that he doesn't believe the girl changed him. He just got lucky and is ready to continue his rampage.
I think you're thinking about it too hard.
Yes.
And that it just means nothing.
I completely agree. So there are a lot of comments here. I do want to inject a little bit of faith in humanity from this one, another fandom user, who said, love all the comments defending the character, saying that his innocence was restored after meeting the little girl. Clearly you have all put far more thought into this film than anyone who worked on it.
Yep.
And then someone responded, yeah, the movie makes barely any sense, but then again it has Nicolas in it, so of course you gotta shut your brain off. So
yeah,
that's where I land.
Yep,
is that
absolutely
people who write those like paragraph long debates about like what the meaning of his redemption or is it redemption, you're thinking about it way too hard.
Yep.
They added him because they were like, we should have like a Hannibal Lecter character in the movie.
That'd be cool.
That's literally as far as it went.
Yeah.
And we could get Steve Buscemi owes me a favor. He's going to be in the movie. That's why he's in the movie.
I was also I should have mentioned this earlier. I was going to say that for Cyrus the Virus, since you mentioned Steve Buscemi, he could be in the movie. There were a ton of other like choices for Cyrus the Virus.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Willem Dafoe and Mickey Rourke auditioned for it. And also, first choice was Gary Oldman.
Who is the villain in Air Force One?
And then they also considered Kevin Bacon, Alec Baldwin, George Clooney, Robert De Niro, Michael Douglas, Richard Dreyfuss, James Gandolfini, Ed Harris, Michael Keaton, Michael Madsen, Jack Nicholson, Sean Penn, Ron Perlman, Tim Robbins, John Travolta, Peter Weller, and Bruce Willis.
Honestly,
any famous person.
You could have put anybody in that role, and it would have been the same, basically.
Willem Dafoe would have done a good job, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of those would be good. Like, I think it would have been cool to see Bruce Willis as a bad guy.
Yeah?
That would have been neat.
Sure.
John Malkovich does a fine job.
Yeah. Oh, I liked him, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, any of those seem fine.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get worked up about this movie. That's what those comments were so funny. It's like,
why do you care?
Why are you writing this right now? In the year 2020, which is when those comments were posted.
That was 2020?
Yes.
Oh my god. Wow.
Oh, man.
That's wild.
So, before we get into... Well, no, let's get into the end of the movie.
Okay.
And then I have some overall questions that I want to ask you.
Okay.
End of the movie is insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So they take off from the scrapyard airstrip.
Uh-huh.
They get shot down over Las Vegas.
We get our funniest line around this time. They're like in the desert or something, flying through the desert, and they have the opportunity to shoot them down there. And John Cusack is like, no, you cannot do it. Like, I have my guy on there. You can't shoot them down. And eventually they land on, like, the Vegas Strip and kill tons of people.
Yeah.
And John Cusack is like, what did he say?
He says something where it's like, this is like a very sensical line, where he's like, yeah, that was way worse.
Yeah, this is way better than shooting them down in the desert.
That's right. It was sarcastic.
Yeah.
It was sarcastic. It was like, oh, thank God the movie at least recognizes how bad of a decision that was. Yeah, so they crash onto the strip in Las Vegas, doing billions of dollars in damage, murdering millions of innocent people. And they crash.
And it does not end here.
No. The movie's not done yet. So they crash, and then John Malkovich, Cyrus the Virus, Ving Rhames, and one other person? Don't remember who the last person is. The pilot.
Oh.
I think it's the pilot.
He's the one driving.
Steal a fire truck.
Yep.
To make a getaway.
Yeah.
And then John Cusack and Nick Cage
jump on scooters
and nod at each other like we're in this together, and they take off after the fire truck.
On motorcycles, like police motorcycles or something like that.
Yes. And my question is why? Why is Nick Cage trying to stop them?
He wants to be a hero.
Why?
He's a ranger. He's got that training, Kenny.
But his whole...
The regular laws don't apply to Nick Cage. He's a deadly weapon.
We've been hit over the head the entire movie. I want to get home to my daughter, Casey. I want to get home to my wife. I want to get home to my family. He's finally landed. And these guys who are getting away don't mean anything to him.
No.
And have really done nothing bad to him.
True.
They haven't wronged him in any way. They're just trying to escape. But he's like, no, I have to stop them.
To bring them to justice.
So he risks orphaning his daughter and leaving his wife alone again to bring these guys down. A chase scene ensues. Ridiculous set piece.
They jump onto the fire truck.
They're shooting water cannons to knock them off the bikes and stuff. And eventually, John Malkovich dies in a ridiculous, over-the-top, horrible villain way. I'm thinking of
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking of
It keeps going. I forgot about this part.
Right. I'm thinking of again, going back to Air Force One, where Harrison Ford is like, get off my plane, and then pulls his chute, and Gary Oldman's gets choked to death and then flies off the plane. Because Gary Oldman is a horrible terrorist who's murdered innocent people completely mercilessly and has been the main antagonistic force preventing Harrison Ford from getting what he wants. So it makes sense that he dies in a horrible way at the end. Cyrus the Virus is just trying to escape.
He's a bad person. We've established that.
He's not a good guy.
Yeah.
But he doesn't
do anything personally to Nick Cage.
No, and we haven't seen him do anything that bad, honestly.
Does he kill a couple people?
He does. But it's not capricious. It's when people cross him, when you don't do what he asked you to do.
He's not a terrorist in this movie.
No, he's not. He just wants to escape.
Yeah.
And at the end, that's all he's trying. He's on a fire truck. He's just trying to get away.
Yeah.
And he dies with I don't know, a telephone pole going down his throat or something.
You think that he dies, and then he ends up on a conveyor belt, and it takes him to get
into
crushed
into a landfill.
We thought it was done, but then he lands on the conveyor belt. It's crushed.
Right, it's so ridiculous and over. It's this death is so unwarranted for what this character is, and that's why it's the movie is confused about what kind of movie it is at this point. And then, okay, to finally wrap it up, Nick Cage then does get reunited with wife and Casey.
Very awkwardly.
Very awkwardly.
So strange. Which I guess if you haven't seen your daughter ever,
I don't mind that.
Awkward.
I don't mind that, honestly.
He has a pink bunny this whole time, and he picks it up out of the sewer or something and hands it to her. Which is
kind of a metaphor for how messy this whole movie was to get back to his daughter. I don't really mind that it's awkward. It feels a little bit more real.
That's
that's
how it would be.
I've never talked to you, but I'm meeting you for the first time.
Yeah.
It would be strange. But then we get the denouement of the movie is the country and western song "How Do I Live Without You?"
Yes.
Which our parents made us listen to lots of country music growing up, so we heard this song on the radio.
Knew this song.
And when they played it at the beginning, I was like, "Excuse me," but looking it up, amazingly, this song was made.
It was written
for Con Air, so that's pretty incredible. Especially, it's such a I don't know, schmaltzy, overwrought emotional song. And that's not what the movie is at all.
I saw that this song was nominated for like a good award and then also a Razzie. Like, clearly we have different feelings about this song.
Yeah, apparently. I remember it being played a lot on the radio when I was a kid.
I know the lyrics.
It was a popular song, but it's pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
As a choice to end your weirdo action movie. And then we see Steve Buscemi's character playing craps.
Yeah, he's fine.
Pointless.
He's just chilling.
Pointless. Doing what he's been doing the entire movie. Nothing threatening.
He's hanging out.
Okay, so now to get to my question.
Okay.
Before we get to our final reviews here.
All right.
One thing I was puzzled by the entire time. Does this movie know how ridiculous it is? When they were making it, where they were like, this is hilarious, this is so bad.
I would say no.
What makes you say that? I agree.
I think the actors took it seriously. So it makes me think that their aim was to make a legitimate action movie.
Yeah.
Like they were trying to be a solid action movie.
And also the fact you listing all the people who tried out for the role
those
of John.
are serious actors.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
So they must have thought this is going to be like a big budget, which I guess it did have a decent budget, but like a actual good action movie.
Yeah.
The other thing that makes me think it actually is taking itself seriously, there are elements of the movie that are too serious and grim to be in like a haha, movie's bad.
Yeah.
There's a lot of racial tension in the movie that's presented pretty flat, and all of the rape attempts is the other thing where it's like,
that's not a funny movie.
No, you can't throw this into your goofy ass movie. So I do think it's just accidentally bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think they were trying to make this a solid action movie.
And instead they made a comedy.
They made Con Air.
Comedy Air. Okay, so final review. You want to give mine? You're already looking at my screen.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 97 out of 97 for the year that it was made.
Okay.
It was funny because I wanted to know, and I've brought up multiple times already in this episode, Air Force One. Very similar, like I said, very similar concept. Have not watched it in a long time, and part of me is terrified that I'll go watch it at some point and be like,
oh.
It's basically the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it made me wonder what else was out in 97.
Okay.
So let me give you a little...
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
So in 97, movies included Batman and Robin.
Okay.
The Game, which I haven't watched.
Nope.
Fifth Element.
Great movie.
The Edge.
Don't know.
Not really familiar. Contact.
Don't know.
Good Will Hunting.
Fine, I guess.
Dante's Peak with Pierce Brosnan.
Okay.
Air Force One. Men in Black. Spawn. The Lost World. Jurassic Park.
Oof.
Anaconda. Event Horizon.
Oh, that's a real fun one.
Yeah. Tomorrow Never Dies, 007, The Devil's Advocate, Volcano, which is about a volcano erupting in LA with Tommy Lee Jones. So what I realized looking at popular 1997 movies is that this doesn't stand out as wow, this was a stinker among a bunch of
that
amazing.
Was just right in the line.
Yep. So I like I said, I'm very scared the day that I decide to watch Air Force One for the first time since 2000 and realize it's not that good.
Yeah, I wonder how people who grew up watching Con Air, how they would feel and review this movie if they watched it again.
I bet they would be positive on it.
Yeah.
And I bet they could watch, Air Force One, having never watched it, and be
this
oh
sucks.
My god, this is hacky. This is bad. So yeah, that I give it a 97 and 97.
That tracks.
It fits in perfectly with this era. If you if you like this, I think. If you watch this, if you either watch this as a kid, you already like it.
Yeah.
Because you got the nostalgia goggles on. Or if you like laughing at hacky Nick Cage movies, you're going to like this too.
It. Yeah.
If you're like me and you want good movies, then you're not going to enjoy it probably.
So obviously, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. What do you give it?
My rating was, I rate this movie 5,000 civilian casualties. Because it's a disaster that you just can't look away from.
Yeah, it's definitely a disaster.
Yeah.
All the pieces are there. There's a structure that this could have been like
it had potential.
a pretty glorious movie.
Yeah.
You know? A movie I haven't watched from the same era, which everyone says is good. Not just a nostalgia thing. Die Hard is supposed to be like, wow.
I've never seen it.
I also have never seen it, which I'm sure some people are like hearing there, like, what the fuck are you talking about? But like this could easily have been a Die Hard style movie.
My thing is, to me, this is a perfect action movie. Because I don't like action movies. So this is bad and funny and like goofy enough that I enjoyed it.
Gotcha.
If I was watching straight up an action movie like
if you watched
Mission Impossible.
If you watched a good action movie.
Yeah.
You'd not be
would
interested.
Would not like it.
Gotcha.
That's why I liked the Fast and Furious movies, because they suck. But they're so funny and so goofy and like so good to watch and make fun of that I like them.
That's a good recommendation, yeah. If you are the kind of person who doesn't like straight action movies, but you can enjoy bad movies, then this could be a good movie to check out. Yeah. For me, if you're like me and you want like good quality stuff, well, I come at it from two angles. I know some people like you, like Amber. Amber loves movies that are so bad that they're good. I just like good movies, straight up. To me, this movie doesn't quite fall in either category. It's not quite schlocky and horrible enough to be so bad it's good, because it does take itself seriously.
Yes.
There is a plot. There are actors putting in performances. It tries. And it doesn't fall on its face so hard that you can just laugh at it the whole way through, from my perspective. And as we both said at the beginning, it's not a good movie.
No.
It is not like just quality work. So it's hard. I can't give a positive review on this one, unfortunately, but I just don't think I'm the target for this.
My only like review that I wrote down was that it's a good goddamn time. I had fun.
I had fun watching it. If I'm gonna watch these bad movies, which it seems like you're gonna drag me to time and time again, then this is the way to do it.
Hey, some of my suggestions were good movies also. Some of the things that I put in that list.
I can't wait to maybe watch one of them someday.
We'll just go back and forth. We'll watch a good one from you and a funny one from me.
That works. You know, I dragged you into 2001, which you did not particularly enjoy.
Not really.
So, yeah, we'll have to do something. Maybe we'll do something we both like next time. We haven't done that since Pride and Prejudice. Yeah.
The golden review.
The golden standard. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been Watching Movies with April and Kenny. If you want to find us on social media, I am at Wolfmere.
I am Tonka Truck Web, I believe.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay. I do review things on my Instagram story sometimes, so.
Yes, and especially once we start putting these out, I can see you doing that a bit more potentially.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
How do I get through a night without you? If I had to live without you, what kind of life would that be? Oh, I need you in my arms, need you to hug.
Near the small village of Heartscrest lies an idyllic hollow abundant with flowers and berry bushes. The warren of Petal Grove is vast and expansive. Hundreds of generations have hopped around its many twisting tunnels. Stories say that this warren has been here since Loam's creation, and all rabbits who inhabit the continent today descended from them. Humans and other various predators come to hunt for rabbits every now and then, nothing out of the ordinary, and until recently, the rabbits of Petal Grove have lived in relative peace. Hello, I'm Amber, the GM of the Warren of Petal Grove. The Warren is a game about intelligent rabbits trying to make the best of a world filled with hazards, predators, and worst of all, other rabbits. I really love the idea of having a game and setting where I plus players could tell several short stories. So I recruited 12 players to play in 3 different mini-stories, all set inside the same Warren. Sessions are aired live on twitch.tv/Geekspective. You can find the VODs on Geekspective's YouTube, and you can find the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go to geekspective.com for more information.